Poke fans, Lindsay here. I also go by NekkoMeneko. Today I'm doing something a little different than what I normally do. I am bringing some Pokemon information news, as we just got a lot of cool, really exciting information from Gameinformer. As you can see it right there on the screen here, we got some super sweet stuff. Max Blade Routes being some of the most challenging encounters. We got Sword and Shield auto-saving, so now we know auto-saving is an actual thing. Pokemon cut from the Sword and Shield National Dex will return in the future. There's so many awesome things. HMs are not in Pokemon Sword and Shield, which is superb. Experience share is backed into Pokemon Sword and Shield, so I'm not quite sure what exactly that means, but let's find out some more of this information. Pokemon Sword and Shield mechanics to let you use your favorite Pokemon competitively. So what does that mean? And the latest entries in Pokemon series are making several tweaks to the franchise long-running conventions, from introducing autosaves and getting rid of experience share items in favor of automatic solutions. Sword and Shield changes several things about the standard playing a Pokemon game. While Game Freak was open about a lot of behind-the-scenes information surrounding the development of Pokemon Sword and Shield, the team was a bit caggery, I don't know what that word is, about the new battle mechanic it could only tease. Traditionally in the series, you start with your starter Pokemon, and then you catch a lot of Pokemon in the beginning. And those are with you throughout your whole adventure, and the player gets attached to them. But a lot of times they get into the competitive battles and they find they can't actually use those Pokemon, or not competitive. So you have to go out and find the exact right Pokemon to breed them in a certain way to make sure they're viable in competitive battles. Planning director Kazumasa Iowa says, this time around, we really wanted to introduce some systems that help the player be able to take those Pokemon they caught in the beginning and the first one they chose, and actually take them straight into competitive battle. There's a lot of hidden parameters to the Pokemon that aren't surfaced to the player. We're doing a lot of stuff in the back and introducing systems that allows players to make sure the Pokemon they want to use in competitive battles are viable. So that sounds really cool to me. That sounds like they're letting us be able to maybe change their stats in a way to be able to allow these Pokemon to be competitive viable, you know, such as like natures. When I asked Io for more details, he says he can't explain the system further, but he does go on to tease a bit more. I got to be very vague about it, but one example, it will be visible to the player and they'll know when they see it. I think, say you have a Pokemon, it's got all the right stats and everything, but there's a personality parameter as well that comes into play battle. It might not be the right personality, so you'll breed until you get the right one, is what people do currently. But you see that there's a system in the game that will fix that for people. So there you go, just explain right there. So basically you can change Pokemon's natures, or like personalities. Well, it's not longer necessary to do so, Iowa says. Players can still put effort into breeding to come up with a perfect specimen for competitive play. We do think there's a value in the effort that players put into it, he says, so breeding's obviously back. But at the same time, I think the Sword and Shield, we want to also have a system that makes it a little bit easier accessible. For example, if you bring Pokemon over from previous games into these games, being able to use that specific Pokemon that has sentimental value to in the battle system competitively is something we wanted to try this time. And that sounds really awesome to me. I'm not a competitive player, but I know many are competitive players, so I'm sure this is like super awesome for all you competitive battlers out there. Experience share is baked into Pokemon Sword and Shield. I'm not sure what that means, but let's find out. During a trip to Game Freak for this month's cover story, we learned tidbits about Pokemon Sword and Shield. One of the smaller yet interesting pieces of info we learned involves experience share, an item that splits the experience earned in battle to all Pokemon into the player's party. According to director Shigeru Omori, Pokemon Sword and Shield does away with this item. However, we followed up with Omori about what that means. We need to train each Pokemon individually. He confirmed to us every Pokemon in the party gets equal experience automatically as you progress through the game. This revelation occurred during our filming of our Rapid Fire Videos interview, which you can look forward to later this week. So basically that's kind of confusing me. I'm hoping this is something that you can technically turn off though, because when I'm playing, I mean, sometimes it's fun to play casually and, you know, have your Pokemon all level up at the same time, and that way you just don't have to worry about grinding at all. But at the same time, it usually makes the games really, really easy. So I just hope there's a way that you can turn that off so it doesn't happen every time, you know, if you choose to do so. Because sometimes it's fun to have a challenge. So we'll see what happens as far as that goes. So HMs are not in Pokemon Sword and Shield. So as we already kind of probably guessed, the HMs are not back. So Pokemon cut from Sword and Shield's National Pokedex will return in the future. Fans are eagerly anticipating Pokemon Sword and Shield, but some of the biggest news coming out of Summer Wars Garden, Junichi Masuda explains that not every Pokemon will make the leap into Sword and Shield. This news left many fans disappointed. So I caught up with Masuda during our trip this month. According to Masuda, the sheer number of Pokemon the series had accumulated over the last two plus decades go to the point of being unwieldy. Up until now, we've been able to include some Pokemon in the games, but as a result of that, there's actually been quite a few features of gameplay ideas that we've had to abandon in the past, he says. Going forward, thinking about the future of Pokemon, we want to prioritize all the new gameplay ideas, new ways to enjoy the game, and want to challenge ourselves at Game Freak to create new ways to enjoy the game. That's really what drove the decision for this new direction. The decision was the result of collaborative talks between Game Freak and the Pokemon Company and Nintendo. We have a lot of awesome new challenges that we haven't even revealed in Pokemon Sword and Shield, Masuda says. We want to continue to come up with these new features, so we figured this was the best path forward for the franchise. Things are a bit complicated when diving into how the team decided which Pokemon wouldn't carry over into the Galar region. A wide variety of discussion happened. It's not just one of the criteria for deciding which Pokemon are going to appear in the games, but a lot of different reasons, a lot of different directions, a lot of debate over which Pokemon would be best in the game, Masuda says. I think one of the examples of that is figuring out what Pokemon would make sense for the setting of the game the most. These Pokemon look like they could live in Galar region. We really spent a lot of effort deciding which would be the best fit, the setting and the adventure of the features that we wanted to implement. I think players will be satisfied. There's quite a few Pokemon that you'll encounter in Galar region Pokedex, so I think players will have fun seeing all of the Pokemon. We asked for statistics about the Pokemon that didn't make the cut for Sword and Shield, including names and total numbers of creatures. Masuda did not elaborate. However, he was much more explicit when I asked if cut Pokemon will return in the future games. Definitely, he says. You can look forward to seeing Pokemon that didn't appear in these games appearing in different regions in the future. I think Pokemon Home, for a lot of players, will serve as a launching pad to gather them together and then embark on future adventures. Pokemon Home has been announced, but the details to this point are scarce. Masuda intends on keeping it that way for a bit longer, but he did offer a bit of insight into the upcoming app. We're really designing it as a place for all of your Pokemon together, so it's really important for the future of the franchise. It'll be more than ever. Pokemon Bank has a place to gather all of your Pokemon together in one spot. We'll have to see which Pokemon we count in Galar region and when Pokemon Sword and Shield launch November 15. For Pokemon Sword and Shield, introduce autosave to the series. Normally, after you perform a trade, you need to stop and save, but instead Game Freak figured out a way to incorporate saves into the wild area. When you connect with them to actually trade or do some kind of interaction, it then seamlessly switches to synchronized connection, Omori says. It's also saving in the background, which is something we previously didn't do. So there's quite a bit going on in that they're represented in the wild areas. As mentioned of saving into the background, I asked Omori if that happens throughout the rest of the game, or if it's restricted to the wild areas. It's a new feature we're implementing, full autosave functionality, he says. Traditionally in Pokemon games, it's an important thing to write your report to record your save, and that's always been a staple, like remember save your game. We do have autosave feature this time where you can just constantly save the game. For those who don't want Pokemon Sword and Shield to autosave, fear not. You can turn the feature off and stick with the traditional save method where you pause the action and manually save. I imagine that will come in handy for encounters with difficult to catch legendary Pokemon. However, Omori says that the process might also feel a bit different on Switch. I think the Nintendo Switch compared to previous consoles is actually a bit harder to restart your game. He says, like the NES, you had a dedicated button to restart the whole thing, but with the Switch, it's a little bit more complicated of a process. So that's basically say that, there's not going to be the soft resets, that we have for the shiny hunting. I think they sounded like they implemented that you can turn off the autosave, which I think is awesome, thinking probably about us shiny hunters, that we like to save and soft reset to try to get the shiny legendaries or whatever. If they're not shiny locked, hopefully they're not. But that's good to know, so that way we can do our soft reset hunts for whatever mons, hopefully, that aren't shiny locked. And yeah, I think that's pretty exciting news, and I think the autosave feature is cool nevertheless, and something just that they're moving on and trying to implement new things. So, Sword and Shield's max raid battle could be among Pokemon's most challenging encounters. Pokemon Sword and Shield are introducing myriad new mechanics to the series. One of the biggest new additions is the ability for Pokemon to grow to massive proportions. While this most prominently displayed battles through the Dynamax and Gigantamax mechanics, players can also challenge powerful giant Pokemon in cooperative max raid battles. We spoke with the developers to learn more about these encounters. While Morty likes the idea of not having to be hardcore battle to enjoy these raid encounters, planning director Kazumasa Iowa cautions that you shouldn't expect to walk right in and take down the highest ranked beasts. I think some of them are going to be pretty difficult, Iowa says. I think it's going to have kind of difficulty we haven't seen in a lot of main series Pokemon games up until now. But there is a wide spread of difficulties even in max raid battles. Much like raids in Pokemon Go, max raid battles are represented by a ranking system. In Sword and Shield, they're ranked by stars. And the more stars a max raid battle has, the more difficult it is. It starts out a little easy, and then you can choose the difficulty based on how powerful your Pokemon are. It says, even for me, a seasoned Pokemon player, even if I go with one of the 5-star max raid battles, I can definitely run into a situation where I'm not able to win. So that's cool. So basically they're just saying these max raid battles, you know, they're not all going to be cakewalks. Some of them are going to be a lot more challenging. And, you know, as Iowa says, even some of the 5-star ones, he was not able to win. So I'm assuming, you know, some of those 5-star raid battles, you're really gonna have to plan like how you're gonna take this on. You know, who's gonna do the Gigantamaxing and, you know, or Dynamaxing, I guess I should say. Who's gonna either Gigantamaxing or Dynamaxing, and just, you know, how to take on this Dynamax, Dynamaxed Pokemon. All right, and that was not everything we got. We also got confirmed that there will be 18 gyms in Pokemon Sword and Shield. There's gonna be like, they're gonna be separated into minor leagues and like major leagues. So I'm assuming that, you know, it's gonna be 8 and 8, so like 8 major leagues and 8 minor leagues. That's just like super awesome news. Sword and Shield sound like they're going to be absolutely fantastic games. I've always looked forward to them. Like, even before knowing all this information, I was always excited. Even after hearing about, you know, the national decks not being there, I was always freaking excited. These games sound like they're going to be amazing. I'm just super excited for them. I will be streaming them when they come out, so we look forward to that. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little something different than I normally do, but I really like Pokemon, and occasionally, you know, I'd like to put out some information that we get from it. So look forward to that. Thank you so much for watching this video. Give it a thumbs up as it really helps, and subscribe if you're new. Hopefully we'll see you next time. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.